Thank you, Bram. Thank you, Craig. What a great way of starting the afternoon with a very positive message. It's about finding that opportunity, I think was put very, very clearly. We have time for questions now. When the microphones get ready, and while you're getting ready, please, if you can come to some of the questions here. There is a question in the app, which I think is common probably to both of you, that I would like, I think there are many ways we can answer this question, which is how we manage IP. And there has been historically a concern around technologies and IP, and potentially a reduced number of organizations maintaining the value in a way that is not accessible to everyone. But I'm sure you've been working through, as you know, different boundaries, and I'll let you to address that. Bram, if you want to start with that. Thanks.
IP is, of course, a great question, and IP is a concern and something we need to work with. So that's why historically CIMMYT, everything we do is automatically an international public good. So when you leave as a scientist CIMMYT, all your research becomes completely open access. Anybody who requests for an entry from the gene bank, we have the obligation to share that. So everything is open and out there. Now, that model also comes with disadvantages, and there's elements that have been moving over time. For example, we had a very great machinery innovation a few years back. We made it available for the rest of the world, and there was one smart commercial company that said, this is a great idea, let me take this, let me patent it, and tuck it away because it is actually not very commercially interesting for some of the other products that I have. We didn't want that to happen again, so today, yes, we have a team of 5 IP lawyers that patent some of those things to then make them again available openly, but to avoid others to take those innovations away. Now, we are also in the new strategy looking at 2 elements within the IP. One, to become stronger to negotiate with certain IP holders. To, for example, say, can we come to an agreement that you make things commercially available in developed markets, and that we can, after 5 years head start, we can use it in a semi-open source environment for the developing countries. So that means you need to increase your capability for these kind of negotiations. I am also a strong believer within that any new technology like gene editing, etc., there should be a strong public knowledge base that will support any private usage and commercialization of those technologies. And I think we need to learn from some of the transgenic conversations in that sense, that there was a whole side of the world, especially the global south, that could not use those technologies, and that may have driven certain conversations. Last but not least, in the new strategy, we are looking at a kind of CIMMYT Inc. element, working with that to look at, are there other revenue stream models? Because it is also exhausting as a public international goods organization that I come to the 31st of December and say, phew, I had enough resources to keep the gene bank, to keep the breeding going, to do all the planting in Obregón, to keep the staff. So you're happy the 31st of December, you drink a good glass of champagne or whatever you like. You wake up the 1st of January and zero again, and there you go running to make sure you get the right projects, the right project portfolio to maintain. So that is actually not a very sustainable model. So are there models that we can develop where CIMMYT could participate in certain companies? Are there innovations in CIMMYT that do not make it to a research grant, but could be used by startups that probably are better to do something with that innovation and make it available for the global south or for the global north as part of the theory of change? Are there things where you can say it is openly available for a license for certain restricted country and time, and from that there is a certain revenue back, royalty feedback, etc. So we are exploring all of that. It is a very complex environment, but I think we need to look more at the goal than the process. And what I mean is our goal is to make those innovations and technologies available. If we don't have the resources to make them available, it's also not available. So there is also that balance. Are we missing out by having not those revenue streams? And therefore, it's also not available. So we're thinking through this more from an availability lens today and make sure that everybody has the same access and potential to access our innovations. That is the key principle, and the backend needs to be analyzed.
Craig, I mean, if the private sector invests into developing a trade, you might want to have a return on that investment.
I agree with a lot of Bram's points. I come at this more not from like the public good perspective, but I work for, shall we say, a private, a traded company. So I think just to add 2 points to this. I mean, number one, you know, there are right now in the UK, we've got some of the leading institutes in the world in this space, both on the plant and on the livestock side. And we shouldn't underestimate that. And one of the things that I get concerned about with this legislative uncertainty is that right now we're leading the space. Do we want to be in the position where we're already behind the 8 ball and then we've had the brain drain and we're not in that battle anymore? I think that's an interesting point. But likewise, whether it's institutions like the one I work for or those research institutions, if you're going to invest so much money into identifying these traits, there needs to be a return on that investment. It's just business. That is the way it is. So, but do I think then that, you know, if we talk quite, I mean, I'm tired of talking about PRRS, let's talk about African swine fever. We know that's a very political thing right now. But if we had African swine fever resistant pig, you know, number one, yes, we'd be able to protect the UK sow herd from any of this illegal meat that's coming into the country. But I think fundamentally as well, what you can then do is the core industry, the commercial industry, you can utilize that. But then you can license that product to those rare breeds, because if ASF comes in, or I remember vividly foot and mouth disease, one of the things that worries me as a geneticist and what worries me about biodiversity is, do we have a backup if like the 3 biggest Gloucester Old Spot herds go? Yeah, the short answer is no. So we need to be able to make sure that we can utilize that as a protective measure. And then the final point that I would sort of lean on this one as well is that I think that we need to make sure that there is the regulatory piece is really important. Fundamentally, these new technologies, whether it's sequencing, whether it's CRISPR-Cas9, they're not that expensive. What's expensive is the route to market. So as much as it's not the R&D so much, it's actually the registration. So I believe that a transparent and harmonized global regulation around these new technologies has the opposite effect and facilitates the liberalization of some of these technologies.
No, thank you. I think that's there's a clear approach here that it democratizes actually the access to the technology.
Exactly.
I'd like to take 2 questions. First, microphone 1, please, here, and then I will follow with 6. Yeah. 1 first, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Tom Allen-Stevens. I'm an Oxfordshire arable farmer, lead the British On-Farm Innovation Network. Wow. I mean, both of those talks, they were so inspiring. You know, thank you, both of you. I mean, I have to say, Bram, in particular, the technologies that you're looking at, you know, the traits, you know, BNI, for example, just jaw-dropping. I can't wait to get this in my fields. Now, we have a project where we've got gene-edited, precision-bred crops that we're going to be growing for the first time across Europe, and it's happening right here in England from this autumn. So, if you were one of those farmers growing these crops for the first time in your fields, what would you look to explore? What would you look to learn from these crops in your fields?
I think if I was one of those farmers, it's learning what those new crops mean for my system and kind of being able to show to others what their learning is. But I think those farmers are going to participate with those new gene-edited crops. Definitely also hope understand what a crucial function they play towards society, to basically, I mean, invite the neighbors to look, and it's even as simple as showing they're just normal crops, right? So invite them and have them talk to the plants. Plants do talk back, as you know. You just have to listen very carefully. So if I think that is a crucial function of that effort. And I think make the learnings, what I would be looking for from me as a Director General of CIMMYT, is really getting the results and the learnings of such an exercise with farmer observations, but also what are the questions, what are the most heard criticisms that come back, so that we can actually register that social interaction around the technology and react to that, not 5 years when it becomes a mass perception, but from the get-go.
Thank you.
Could I just add?
Can we get 600?
Sure. Sorry.
Both, yeah.
Henry Reynolds, I'm a farmer from Northamptonshire. My father has been recording rainfall on the farm for the last 50 years, and 2024 was the wettest on his records. 3 of the last 5 winters have been the wettest winters on his records. We hear a lot about breeding for heat and drought resistance. Is there anybody doing any work on cereals for wetter environments?
It's an excellent question. Of course, my presentation of our efforts are skewed towards the global south, right? So that is why drought and heat are so important. Now, cold is also a trait we are looking at. There are also breeding efforts going on for excess water, as well as agronomic research efforts. They're a bit outside probably of the core focus of CIMMYT, given who we serve. But definitely there are networks around that, and if you're interested, we can discuss a bit more to put you in contact with that.
I think we are running out of time, but I do have a long list of questions in the app. And there's one that I think links to some of the discussion we have in the morning, which I'd like to ask you both before we leave. We have had a focus on disease resistance, on improving yields and climate mitigation. Can we bring nutrition in all this? And I think it's a fair question, given that we have so many presentations in the morning focused on that. And can I start with you, Craig?
Yeah, sure. I think that's another exciting area. I mean, obviously, from a R&D perspective around some of these new technologies, you hit the big things first, and obviously animal health, animal welfare is a huge deal. But if I look to the future as well, and I really appreciated the conversation before lunch in terms of developing, more nutritious products. I mean, sure. I mean, we already know that, things like fatty acid profiles, et cetera, are heritable. We can select on that. And if I look then to some of the work that's been already going on in the plant space, not to jump into your area too much, Bram, but adding vitamin-enriched tomatoes and these sort of things, I think that we can fundamentally impact human nutrition, human health, as a derivative of these technologies impacting our food system, both from an animal and plant perspective.
Absolutely, and very short, I think there's like 3 buckets of nutrition-related elements. One is increase the nutritional density of those cereal crops. There is also a whole element around the processing side. We know that whole grain products are more healthy. We also know that they're an issue for rancidity and therefore shelf life and how long they can stay nice and flavory. Now, there are gene editing technologies to work on those rancidity characteristics. So you could also, from the farm, do something so that later on the processors actually can produce those more healthy products. Last but not least, healthy diets are going to mean diverse diets. That de facto means we need to produce those nuts and fruits and vegetables and diversified beans, etc. That will probably also mean that there is less space for maize and wheat. So that actually the productivity of maize and wheat per square hectare needs to improve. But it also means that we need to develop those cereal-based systems that can incorporate those diversified crops.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I'd like to thank both speakers. It was a fantastic start of the afternoon. Thank you very much. Very inspiring. Thank you. Thank you. It was a great session. Great session. Have a great session. Thank you.